So in this presentation, I'm going to talk to you about the value that MRFS brings, why we think it's a great solution, a great value for our customers. I'm going to show you some spend analytics. I'm going to show you how to use the solution, how to order from it on GSA Advantage, how to use the solution in eBuy if you want to do set-asides using this. And I'm going to show you a little bit about the acquisition gateway. I'm going to go through the boring terms and conditions, the important but boring terms and conditions, and I'm going to talk about little details that you need to know as a buyer. This training, this training is designed for people who are buyers. So if you're logging in now, chances are you may not be one of those people. Maybe you're just a GSA employee like me, or maybe you're a procurement analyst at your agency. Maybe you're a program manager. Some of the details in this presentation aren't necessarily going to apply to you. This presentation is built for people who are buyers. Having said that, we will go through all kinds of information that I think you program manager, you procurement analyst, and you other roles out there are going to find extremely useful, and I hope you do. So let's get going. So why would anybody use MRFS? Our prices average 9% lower than the market, and actually we're higher than that average looking at D2D, which I'll show you later in this presentation. How do we figure that out? How do we make a statement like that? The way that we make a statement like that is we compare all of the prices on our solution against prices in the market. Well, what is the market? The market is that same or very similar item as posted from other solutions, non-MRFS solutions, like mass offerings, like any price for that item found on GSA Advantage, and on any other government marketplace like FedMall or like a NASA soup. If we can't find a match there, we look at commercial sites, Amazon.com, Walmart.com. I'll show you a study that compared some of those things later in the gateway, time allowing. But that's where we get our comparative analysis to come up with this assertion that we're 9% lower than the market. And as I mentioned, we're actually tracking higher than that right now, up above 20%. And I can get into more detail on exactly how that's calculated later. But for now, that's a key value of ours. We're offering really good terms and conditions at extremely competitive prices based on our data. What else would you get from MRFS? You get 6 business day delivery and simple destination pricing on millions, 7.4 million items for sale on MRFS. They're all priced at delivery terms. You can spend smarter for your agency, and you can create reports for your agency. Every single transaction on MRFS comes with 20 lines of transactional data. Our vendors, all 30 of them, they submit transactional data every single month. That data is ingested and put out into the analytics dashboards that we create. I'm going to show you the dashboard later in this training. Why else would you MRFS? The more you use it, the better the pricing gets. Those are the thresholds. When any vendor on the solution who had quoted a tier discount, not all of them, not all 30 quoted a tier discount, but most of them did. When they hit those spend thresholds, we get lower pricing, and then you get lower pricing. So the more we spend, the more we save on this solution. There's also low or no minimum orders. What does that mean? There's a nominal minimum order amount of $25. You'll see that on all the postings on GSA Advantage, all the listings for these items. But when you order below 25, your order will still be accepted. There will just be an additional fee tacked on. That's called a minimum order fee. It's also called a convenience fee. It differs by contractor. It averages $8 across all 30 contractors. Currently, GSAadvantage.gov has a technical limitation. That technical limitation means it fails to process orders under this amount. It's slated for change. It's in the pipeline for an update. But today, if you ordered on GSAadvantage.gov, you couldn't order below $25. So to do that, you would order directly with the vendor on one of the other platforms, which leads into this last bullet point. Our solution is platform agnostic. You can order from GSAadvantage.gov, which happens about a third of the time. About a third of the sales run through Advantage. But you can also order on the contractor's website. You can order on FedMall because the items are loaded there by the vendors, and some of the vendors operate brick and mortar stores. You can also order with the vendors using email. Most of them from their website would have an email address where you could send your order. Also on eLibrary, they have their call information as well as their email information. You could email them with your order, especially if your order is of a special variety, you need expedited shipping, things like that. You can contact the vendor directly and order that way. So MRFS has a number of different entry points that as buyers, you can go in the way that makes the most sense for you. If you're using your smart card, which is by and large, over 90% of our sales happen with the GSA Smart Pay 3 card. So most buyers are using that card. But there are other methods, including ACH and other methods that that buyers use. So MRFS is flexible. It has low or no minimum orders, as I mentioned, and there are expedited delivery options, although those come with a fee as well. So check with the vendor before doing an order with expedited delivery. What else is a value of MRFS? One of the things is that this is a best-in-class designated solution. There are about 40 of these solutions on the market. GSA spearheaded this designation, and but multiple agencies, acquisition shops, have applied for and have achieved this designation. You get this designation because you do the things that you see in this bullet. You provide transactional data. You partner strategically with industry. You reduce contract duplication. So instead of having 100 contracts, we have one. It makes it easier. It makes it more efficient. We can pass the savings on to the buyers. We have deeper discounts based on spend thresholds that I mentioned earlier, the tier discounts, and other factors. Improved in-stock percentages. Order, fill, or kill, also known as back ordering, is a requirement. So whenever you order, if the item is not in stock, our vendors are required to tell you that. And then you have the choice to accept, the new date that they give you. If you're willing to wait 2 weeks, you can wait. They would ship it when it's available. If you cannot wait that long, then you can fill or kill the order. And then you can, try to procure your item from another solution. So that comes standard with every order. And we have a terrific representation of small businesses, 26 of 30, as 7 of those are service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses who are all VetBiz certified. So any of our VA customers on the phone, I want to let you know that you can meet your rule of 2 easily. And I'll show you exactly how to do a set-aside for just that group of contractors later in this presentation. What else is great about MRFS? Why would you want to use it? MRFS fits right in with category management. That's an approach being pushed at the highest levels of federal government procurement to buy smarter, more like a single enterprise. Kind of sounds like strategic sourcing because it kind of overlaps. The goals are pretty similar. You want to deliver more savings. We want to deliver more value and more efficiency. Meet small business goals. Leveraging the government's purchasing power, that's those tier discounts. That's bringing that's bringing all these separate contracts or all these separate things out there into one solution that you can go to and use to fulfill all your needs in this category, in this industrial products and services category of goods. These are the kinds of items that are available: hardware and tools. We also have paints, adhesives, and sealants, and all those other things that are listed there. FYI, for those of you who have been following this particular GSA solution, you may recognize some of these categories as being what we used to call GSA purchasing channel or MRO purchasing channel. Those were the first generation of this solution. Those were established around 2014, 2015. They ran for 5 years. Towards the end of that, we decided that in furtherance of our strategic sourcing goals, it might make sense to combine these 2 commodities. So that's what we did. MRFS is basically the second generation of MRO purchasing generation 1 and GSA purchasing generation 1 rolled up into one solution, continuing the trend of just making it easier to buy by having things consolidated into one and further leveraging the purchasing power, which I think you'll see on the dashboard that I'm going to show. Contract basic details right here. Period of performance is 1 year from the date of BPA establishment. July 2019, that's when it was established, July of 2019. So we're nearing the end of the base period, and there's 4 one-year options. We're getting ready to exercise option year 1. This is a BPA against MAS, multiple award schedules. BPA stands for Blanket Purchase Agreement for those of you not in the 1102 series. So all the regulations, laws, and requirements at the MAS level flow down to the BPA unless we have special different terms which are available, just like this PowerPoint, on the internet. And I'm going to show you this right here. This file right here, this is the RFQ. This is exactly how this thing was, how this acquisition was solicited and awarded. You can even see the evaluation criteria that we used if you want. This is on the internet. You can get this at any time. And we keep this posted for transparency. You can hold contractors to what they said they were going to do when it came to all these things. So you can see everything that's built in here. And this link here, which I'll place this in the, I'm going to place this in the chat here. Go see that. In fact, while I'm at it, I will go ahead and post the gsa.gov/MRFS link, and you can go there and get the slides and click through to the end if you want, instead of waiting for me to talk all the way through. But this is the RFQ, and I'll show you on Advantage when we get to that section. This is a way to positively identify a listing as an MRFS item if you can't otherwise tell, and it's not always easy to tell. So I'll show you that too. But this is linked on all those 7 million items. They all have a link to this RFQ.
All of our contract information is available at our little corner of gsa.gov, which is gsa.gov/MRFS. I'm going to go there now. And you can see all the awardees. As I mentioned, this is off by 2 contractors. There are 2 contractors who are no longer participating in the solution. So this is the link, and then you go over here to awarded vendors, over here on the left side. You click on this, and there's this nice little chart. This contract access product is no longer a BPA holder. And this contractor Morningstar down here is no longer a BPA holder. Everybody else is still currently active. But you can get their actual contact information. Real people at these companies that you can talk to about ordering. They may not be able to help you personally, but they can direct you to someone within their company who can. Some of these companies are very small businesses. Some of them are large businesses. Like you see here, Snap-on Industrial. OTSB stands for Other Than Small Business, for those of you not in the familiar with that language. And lots of SDV, OSB, service disabled, veteran-owned small businesses. So our VA customers, we built this with you in mind. Every single one of those SDV, OSBs is VetBiz certified. Really happy to present those options. I'm going to jump back to the slide now. Just talked about that. Another benefit, all contractors are Ability One authorized distributors. That means that they've been certified by the Ability One Commission to sell Ability One items. This also comes with an expectation that they would not sell ETS, essentially the same items. GSA does a lot of work to clean our platform, the GSA Advantage.gov platform, of ETS items so that you can order in confidence. Okay, so let's talk on this sort. Our contractors, again, 6 business days, but there are other options available. There is a good replacement policy for damaged items. 30-day returns, similar to what you find in the commercial space. Returned items must be in the original packaging, and there may be some restocking fees. Just keep that in mind. So we do not have free returns, and it may vary by contractor as to how much the restocking fee is. Taxes are included in the pricing, as you see there. A Mill Standard 129 will apply for orders where it applies. So what does that mean? If you're a DoD customer, U.S. Army, Navy, Marines, you need Mill Standard 129 compliance. You can order with MRFS. The contractor is responsible for meeting the many and various marking and labeling requirements that come with Mill Standard 129. It is their responsibility to correctly interpret that your order requires that. But I will tell you that a very small percentage of the orders from customers for the solution typically need that, so you may want to specify that in your order instructions.
Okay. So as I've been mentioning throughout or hinting at, we are data driven. So our contractors, they capture data on every transaction. That helps you spend smarter. I'm going to show you what they capture: contract number, quantity sold, item price, item description. And then we at GSA generate a savings metric, and then we publish it on a dashboard that I'm going to show you now, hopefully, if my VPN is cooperating. So it seems to have kicked back out to the general site. But this is the website. It looks like it's working. It's going to take a little bit to load. But here's the address, and I'm going to paste this into, I'm going to paste this here. So you can come here. We want our users, especially our buyers and our agency customers, to use this all the time. Tell us what they like, what they don't like about it. This website shows you what you spent and how much you saved and all kinds of other analysis. So I'm going to show you the high level cost avoidance tab that I've been talking about. So again, it's a D2D, that stands for Data to Decisions. This platform holds a lot of GSA dashboards, both internal and external to the agency. Here's how you can see the MRFS spend and savings. You come to this page, like I said, cost avoidance tab, the award vehicles. I mentioned there are about 40 BIC certified vehicles plus, and several of those are listed here, 19 of them. So we share this platform with 19 other solutions. So you just want to select MRFS, obviously. And then that takes a while to kind of load and recalibrate. And that brings you to this page. And then for the order date, this is a range, so you can select when you want to start and when you want to end. This is how much we spent: $70 million have our customers spent on the solution for FY20 to year to date, and have saved $23 million for a cost avoidance rate of 24.7%. Again, the way that we calculate that is we take all the spend that's been done, we compare the price that was paid for our items against the market. Again, the market is what it is, any listing in a government marketplace like GSA Advantage, FedMall, or NASA Soup, as well as a commercial marketplace data point. If a government marketplace data point cannot be found, those commercial data points include data from Amazon.com, Walmart.com, and up to 163 other websites that sell stuff. And our price stacks up pretty well against those. If you want more detail on, there's more to this. There's a lot of detail into how the comparison price is generated. It's actually based on a statistical average. It's not always an exact actual price that's out there. That statistical average is affected by the number of hits that the item being queried achieves and other factors. So if you have questions, we can definitely dig in on that. And we're right up at 10:30, so I do want to go ahead and keep moving. But this is the data. And then down here is, there are a lot of different drop downs. So your funding agency, you can see, as I mentioned, VA is our top spender, followed by Air Force, then Army, then Navy. DHS is down here. And then there's others down in here. Let's see here. GSA itself, after that. And all the CFO Act agencies use this to some degree or another. You can see the savings, the cost avoidance by agency, the median expenditure per order, the number of orders and the total quantity ordered, and much, much more. I really encourage everyone to go in here and use this. Hopefully you can get some value. You can get some value from this.
As I mentioned, everybody's a ability one authorized distributor, all contractors. All products are Trade Agreement Act compliant because this is a schedule solution and that's a requirement.
Buying options, Advantage, FedMall, our items are available there and many other places. SmartPay 3 is overwhelmingly the most common form of payment for our solution. There's a 25 minimum threshold. I've talked about this before. You may pay a fee if your order is below $25. Check with the contractor before doing that. Procurement tools. Okay, eBuy. eBuy is a tool that not everybody, many or most people at GSA know about. If you're a buyer at GSA, you've used it. If you're a buyer at another agency, you've probably used it. This system gets used a lot. It's an RFQ system. I want to show you how MRFS comes into play on this, if my computer will cooperate. So I'm not logged in. So in order to log in, I'm gonna have to grab my password, and to do that, I will need to stop sharing for just a second. So I'm gonna stop sharing here, and if you'll bear with me, I will get logged in again. This is gonna take a little bit longer than normal because we now have multi-factor authentication. Definitely a good thing security-wise. Takes a little bit longer, but I had logged in previously, so it saved my authentication. So you can there's a checkbox that you can say, remember me for the next 12 hours or something. So if you do that, you only have to multi-factor authenticate, in theory, once a day. Anyway, so here's eBuy. If you haven't logged in here in a year's time, this looks different to you than it did before. They've updated it. The layout's different. I think it's much more user-friendly. Um, the way this works is you go to My RFQs. Here's all the RFQs that I've been doing or have worked on. And when you want to do a new RFQ and you want to, let's say, use just the MRFS solution, okay? What you do is prepare a new RFQ. You come down here to blanket purchase agreements. We're one of those. And then it's got all these blanket purchase agreements that GSA has set up, and MRFS is right here in alphabetical order. And this gives a description of our solution and all the stuff that we carry, and then you want to select these vendors. And now it says all 35. It says 35, there's actually only 30. Why does it give 35? Well, because some of them have more than one contract, like document imaging, for example. They have a BPA that's against their Schedule 75, which is office products, but then they also have a BPA against their 51V. I'm talking in legacy terms now. I know GSA is in the middle of mass consolidation, which makes everything more confusing. But and I said office products, which may confuse you as well, because this is obviously not an office product solution, but we do use one SIN from the Schedule 75. The SIN is 7585, and that SIN is restroom products, and those are in scope of MRFS because they're JanSan products. So you have companies like Document Imaging here with a BPA on Schedule 75. That's why. And then they also have a BPA against their 51V, which is their hardware superstore. All of this is changing. Of course, everybody's going to mass consolidation, but you'll still see companies out here listed twice. And there's my dog, speaking of the background noise that I mentioned at the beginning. So apologies again for the disruptions and the background noise, but I appreciate everyone's patience. So back to this presentation. So here's the vendors. And one of the things I wanted to show you is, let's just say that you want to do a small business set aside. There's this nifty little pop-up right here, and you just click yes. And then if you wanted to just do, let's just say you're with the Veterans Administration and you want to meet your rule of 2, well, you just would set this aside against the SDVOSBs. There's your 6 vendors, and you can proceed to build the rest of your RFQ using, whatever you need to procure your RFQ title. I need tools, wrenches, whatever. And you can put your description. You want your RFQ to close on this date. You can add a ton of attachments, Excel, PDF, Word docs. You can add line items out here. You can update the address that you want the stuff to go to, etc. Then you can save it, work on it later, or submit it and send it out. All kinds of things like that. Okay, so let's go to, that's eBuy. Again, that's how to compete your requirement amongst just MRFS holders. Hopefully we'll have a little bit of time. It's 10:42, but I'm hoping we can save a little bit of time to just look at this again. But this shows what I just showed. This is in the slide deck. Let's talk a little bit about ordering requirements. This part is also extremely boring. Orders at or below micro. You can place your order with any contractor that meets your needs. This is, of course, the easiest way to procure items. This is if your order is below the micro, which is currently $10,000. If you're over micro, but less than stat, you do need to do a comparative price analysis. You do need to justify if you're going to order a specific brand name. How do I know if I'm ordering a specific brand name? If you're ordering from MRFS, you're ordering a brand name, because that's all we have is brand name items. We don't have national stock numbers on MRFS. We just have brand name part numbers. So if you're over micro, you need to do those things. You need to justify it, and you need to do a comparative price analysis. If you're oversat, RFQ. This is from FAR 8.405. You need to follow this part of the FAR. If your agency has additional supplements to Part 8, you need to follow those in addition. But this is kind of what you need to do. If you're just doing it straight from Part 8, you got to put your evaluation criteria. You have to give fair opportunity to everybody that quotes. These are some example terms that you could use if you were doing a best value award.
All right, so that is a quick run through of Part 8 and eBuy. Let's look at GSA Advantage. So GSA Advantage, as I mentioned, it's our main platform. About 1/3 of all orders for MRFS go through the GSA Advantage platform. I will show you a couple ways to search. Of course, the primary way is just going to be by keyword. This is our understanding of how the vast majority of customers search for items. They're not searching for a specific category of things. They don't really give a lot of attention to the program under which their item falls. They really just need what they need. In other words, they really just need the item. They might need to be buying some crescent wrenches, for example, for their office. So they're going to input, if that's you, you're just going to input crescent wrench and see what GSA has available. And so I'm going to kind of try to show you a little bit about what all these little icons mean. So right here, the very first result, it does have an FSSI tag. It does have a BPA tag. I'm going to click on this one and see if we can see a little bit further. Okay, so the first offering, this is an FSSI vendor, but their offering is not the first that appears. The second offering, which is the same price as it, is an MRFS offering. How do you know that? All MRFS listings, and there's millions, but they all have this little yellow BPA square that shows up on the product description page like this. Okay. And then every single one of them has the BPA number listed out here. So right here where it says BPA number. And then the way to know for sure, because no one except us, the contracting team, will have memorized these contract numbers, these BPA numbers. But this little link here that says BPA terms, it's in blue. If you click on this, it will open an RFQ, and this is our RFQ. So every single listing has this link. And then you can see all of the terms and conditions that we've been talking about on this meeting. The full RFQ is right here. This RFQ is available, off of each listing. You don't have to be logged in to see this. But that's how you can tell for sure that this is an MRFS item. And there's an error right now. It says 5 days. That should say 6 business days. That is a system glitch that's being worked on. But you would see additional MRFS vendors more or less sorted by price from lowest to highest. So that is a really quick rundown of how to search for and find items on GSA Advantage. I will go back to the home page and show you one other thing. So let's just, if I go here, if I just click this little blue GSA logo, it'll take me back to the home page. And then there's this little box on the right that says strategic sourcing, products or services. We don't have any services. We are only products on MRFS. And then you'll see us listed down here if you scroll just a bit right here. And then the way that this works is if you click on one of the names of these contractors, it will produce the full selection of that contractor's MRFS offering. I'm going to pick this first one because I know from memory that they have a fairly small offering. This is Acuity Specialty Products, also known as ZEP. But here you go, 389 products. So they don't have a lot of items, but these are the items that they sell under MRFS. And as you can see on the product listing page, here's that link. That's our RFQ link. If you were to click and dig through the link itself, again, you might see this. Here. Many offers for this product, of course. And then, like I said, you can click on BPA term. So that's again a really quick rundown of GSA, GSA eBuy, and GSA Advantage. So let's jump back to the presentation. And this is the acquisition gateway. So the acquisition gateway is another tool that we like to share about. I will go ahead and attempt to log in here as well. Span this again real quick. Okay, so the acquisition gateway has a lot of different tools, COVID-19 resources, which are really handy right now, of course. I'm not signed in right now, so you may see links for some things, but until you sign in, you can't get at them. And the eBuy Open tool, which is what I want to show you, is one of those tools. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And conveniently, a website like the other websites, well, at least like the D2D dashboard, authenticates the same way. It uses your CAC card. So it didn't even bring up a workflow, probably picked up my other login. But anyways, eBuy Open is the tool I wanted to show you. This is only available to government employees. If you are a contractor, you will not be able to get into this. But what this tool does is it shows you all of the RFQs that really have ever been posted on GSA's eBuy platform for at least the last 6 years. Hundreds of thousands of RFQs available for you as templates, as a resource. Just a lot of different reasons this could come in handy for 1102 contracting professionals. I use this site from time to time. It's really handy. Hopefully it would load soon enough that I could talk about it some more, but that is one tool that I like to showcase about the gateway. And I'm going to jump back to my slides while that loads. Yeah, so this is the workflow you would have seen if I hadn't been logged in elsewhere already. And then our little corner of this universe is this industrial products and services tile that has this picture of this wrench right here. Is what you would click there, and you would see MRFS under there. You can connect with other users and do lots of things up there. Before I go through the final slide here, which is a rundown of the resources, let's see if eBuy Open has rendered. It hasn't yet. Oh, it's getting close. Usually that's pretty fast once you see this little gauge thing running. And then the last percent will take like 10 minutes, but let's look at these real quick. MRFS@gsa.gov, that's where you can email us. The savings, that's what I showed. That's data to decisions dashboard. That's let's see if this is logged in still. Yeah, that's this one over here. While we're here, you can see that transactions raw data page is loaded. So here you can see individual transactions, right? Individual items, price paid, quantity, total expenditure, total cost avoidance at a line item level. So really detailed, really tons of data that you can use to analyze your spend for your agency. Check eBuy Open, come on. No, it's still kind of rendering. It's going a little slower than normal today, but yeah, so our website, gsa.gov/MRFS. It's a really short URL, but when you open it, it turns into a really long URL. Just a heads up if you're bookmarking that. We talked about this a little bit, but there's the overview. We covered a lot of that in our presentation today. How to order, a little bit of step-by-step there. That covers some of the Part 8 stuff that we talked about, as well as the platforms. ability one information, and then the list of awarded vendors, of course. This will be updated shortly to account for the expired contractors that I talked about. But that's there. Their contact information is there. If you click on this, it'll load depending on your email system and go straight to them. Also has a phone number. Okay, and then eBuy Open, come on. Still does not want to cooperate, but what it is it just loads up in kind of a different looking format. All the eBuy RFQs, there's a search function, of course. So if you want to see a sole source example, or maybe you'd like to find a good template for buying, a certain type of product or a certain type of acquisition strategy, there are ways to search for that using eBuy Open, really handy. So recommend that you go in there, you can click on this little stack of bricks icon here. It says eBuy Open. And you can find that via the acquisition gateway. It's not available anywhere else. We do also operate a blog. It's called Interact. Not just our team, but GSA and MRFS has its own page on that blog, and we post updates when significant things happen. We haven't had a lot of news. Our last biggest post, I think, was that we made the award, but we sometimes post updates about our solution there. And then I'm going to go back one more step. Got the gateway. Of course, category management. You can learn all about that. You can learn more about best in class. You're going to see that if you just say, let's see if we can show one example. So if you just search by the acronym BIC, there we go. Got a whole best in class research tool, best in class reference material, and so on. So you can click through and learn more about what that is, what your agency's doing about it. These are some of the very same things that you saw on our slide deck. There's an email address that you can ask questions about BIC. So yeah, it's a certification process that we did to get this designation, and really proud to be part of this class of solutions. There are over 40 best-in-class certified solutions available within the federal government. It's definitely a growing designation. That is the content. I really want to thank everybody for their time. I'm going to open it up to questions now. If you had a question that you thought of, please place that in the chat if you'd like me to address it before we go. If not, you can always email us at mrfs@gsa.gov. One of the questions I hadn't seen, but we always get asked, is can I have a copy of the slides? Yes, you can go to mrfs.gsa.gov, and I'll show you where to get the slides. You can go to mrfs.gsa.gov and click right here, training slides. This is a copy of what we went through. If you can't remember how to find the site, or if you don't go here until later, just email us and we can send you this link.